Morning, Paul.
Morning.
All right, welcome to the Finance Committee for November 19th, 2023. Present today are Councilman Clay and Councilman Clunt, along with City Attorney Paul Jensen and Finance Officer Chandra Phillips. 10 items
It'll be fast.
on today's Finance Committee, so let's go ahead and start rolling through them.
The first one is just informational for you. I believe it was approximately a month ago that we talked about different processes that we could use to get employees here. And at that time, you both said, hey, we're willing to consider some different things, but we want to see some effort of going out to internship fairs, college tech schools, different things like that. We have our first one set up. January 17th at USD. I understand that it only really applies towards probably the law enforcement center more than anything with criminal justice there, but it is at least a foot in the door to get some information out to those employees or to those college kids. We have reached out to tech schools. They will be calling us as they get other dates involved. And so then we'll get those started too. It's my understanding that it's just Justin and Rhonda going to this one this time, as there isn't anything that applies to Public Works at USD. And so that's where I understand it to be. If you have different opinions on that, by all means, please voice them. I guess the thought process behind that was when we talked on it on Friday was, is it worth it the appointed going if there's not necessarily a program that is applicable to the positions that they're looking for? And so that kind of...
It would make no sense for you to look for a deputy finance officer at criminal justice school.
Right.
I mean,
But USD has the best business school. in the
Agreed.
state.
but not criminal,
Right.
I mean, in comparison. It's-
Right. And we did talk about that, so I guess if you guys want me to, so this is kind of my thoughts behind it, and if you have different thoughts, I'd love to hear it. Rhonda as HR knows what the finance office is looking for, and rather than taking 2 employees out of the business office, it would either be Rhonda as HR can represent the business office, or I can go and represent HR and the business office. So it would be, I would prefer to not take 2 people out of my 4-person office if possible. If you would prefer that 2 people go, we can do that too. So we hadn't had that conversation, Jody, and so I guess I'm looking for advice and opinions on it.
I always have advice and opinions, but that feels a little bit more operational, how many people you take to a show or not. The fact is that you're working to have these. That's what we wanted to see.
Okay, as long as you're okay with that and we'll make it work, then I'm happy with that too. I don't want it to feel like we're being unfair either, so. So item number 2, city scholarship tuition reimbursement. We have our first possible tuition reimbursement possibility. As you saw last night, there is a resignation in the electric department. There have already been 2 applications, it's my understanding, for the new position at entry level. So Troy had asked Paul and I to look into this tuition reimbursement. We've talked about it plenty of times during the budget season. What was said was, don't budget for it because we don't know what we're looking for 100%. If we find something that it'll work for, then come back and ask for the money at that point in time. We did get our first response back from another city who does this. Yesterday, Yankton sent me their tuition reimbursement plan. We would structure ours semi-similar to that, a little bit different, and yet semi-similar to the Build Dakota Scholarship too. So that's definitely something we're looking into. And
So-
we talked about it in personnel yesterday too.
Sorry, it just popped into my head. Can the city be part of this Build Dakota? Like if there's a kid coming out of high school, can we sponsor him, send him to electric school with a commitment that he has to stay here for so long? And
Yes. We can be part of Build Dakota, or you could build your own structure that's similar to Build Dakota.
You could create your own or
Yep.
use that platform.
Can't you do both? Couldn't you do both?
Sure, I don't know why
It's the
not.
same.
Huh?
It's the same. I mean, we should either choose to participate in building, you can do both.
Because I think the whole intent purpose is, hey, if the department heads or somebody feels like there's a kid coming out of high school here in Winter, South Dakota, or Cologne, South Dakota, Gregory, wherever it is, a local, and I'm not giving preference to local, but our goal is to get someone good that's gonna stay here for long term. And obviously, we know the percentages of that increase if they're from here. Not that they are, but it increases.
Or has family from here, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So if we participate in Build Dakota, we've talked about bonuses or whatever on longevity. So that's why I said take advantage of that plus have our own possibility. If there is someone that fits that bill or whatever, I just think it could be a good,
Absolutely. The one thing I will say is that to do Build Dakota and even Yankton's policy that they have right now, you have to have it signed before they even start school. So if there is a possibility that they've already been in school and want to apply here after the fact, then that does not qualify anymore. You have to have it signed and ready to go before you even start your classes. So that could hinder us a little bit, but it could help us on the back end too, because then Build Dakota actually says, hey, City of Winter is one of these people.
it goes in the bullet point number 1. They have job fairs here at Winter High School. Man, maybe we need to recruit our own fields first. And, conversations, having our superintendents there, hey, this is available, blah, 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 blah. I'm sure, because I don't barely even know about these opportunities existing, much less a 17-year-old kid in high school know that, by golly, yeah, that's good money, live in my hometown, and they're gonna help me tuition. Huh, you might get a great applicant,
Absolutely.
if they know about it.
Yep.
So bullet point 1, keep working on it.
Yep. RFP process for MIT. We did get a third party that has agreed to help us write the RFP for our managed IT. 3 sections for that managed IT. The first will be Public Works, Finance, and Code Enforcement. And the second option will be Law Enforcement Center only. And then the third option will be the City of Winter as a whole. They will get to choose how they want to quote it. It'll be similar to our city engineers. Once we receive all of the RFPs back, then we would set up interviews with them, and it would be Troy, myself, the mayor, Paul, and Justin, and then which 2 committee members. I think it's been finance committee members that have been invited to the city engineers, but I don't remember for sure. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on that. We'd be looking at February sometime to set up the interviews.
All I can say is we've done, for the last 3 or 4 years, done nothing but funnel money in IT. And we jump around from this management to this management, and every time we switch, they say that stuff the other company has isn't good. I'm tired of it. I mean, find somebody and stick with it. It's,
What I would
we
love
can't keep doing this. It's
to
just
see.
blowing money.
Yeah. What I would love to see is get us all under an actual managed IT contract for approximately 3 years. Get us everyone where we need to be, and then from there, look into something like what the county does. Have our own local managed IT person that works for the City of Winter with a third party as backup. That way, that person can go on vacation if they need to, or after hours, or families in the hospital, whatever, then you still have an 800 number that you can call if you need to. But I think, it's my understanding in talking with the other appointeds, that the goal would be eventually to have a local person here that we semi-control as an employee for the City of Winter. But I'm afraid where we sit right now, if we were to do that, we could very easily overwhelm one person with, because we're still not 100% up to par where we need to be with everything. We still need to make sure all of our firewalls are where they need to be, that we all have computers that can communicate back and forth, because we still have some old computers in some of the places that can't use Windows 10, and apparently Windows 10 now has a death date as well. So different things like that. But wanted to let you know that it's been started, and he started yesterday getting all the information, and our goal is to have it ready to go out in January, mid-January, and then interviews in February and award at the end of February, so. And our contract with room 119, they sent notice, it will be officially ending as of January 31st, 2024, sorry. Where's Brad when you need him?
Who's that?
It's Direct Technologies.
Oh, yeah.
They haven't had anyone here since July, and they've paid us rent through January, but they gave us their 60 days termination. Room 111 is open, which that's $552 a month, and then room 119 is open, $574.50 a month, and potentially another room coming open due to budget restraints on the state side. So I have started advertising for rooms. You saw them on the windows. They're also in the newspaper that we have office space available for nonprofits and government agencies. What we talked about a month ago as well is potentially renting out the basement as climate-controlled storage. I did some research and found it's all over the board for what people charge. One charges anywhere from $471 to $420 a square foot. That is not climate controlled. One charges $19.20 to $10 a square foot. That is climate controlled. The other one charges $15 a square foot. That's climate controlled, and then the other non-climate controlled is $525 to $857.
Is that gonna be for, government entities and nonprofits available
Correct.
to only also?
So right now, what you charge for an office space is $9 a square foot. I think you could easily get $9 a square foot for storage space too. Now, if you would like it to be cheaper, we would need to make note of that in a new policy. If it's not a new policy, we can use the exact same contracts that we currently use, just as make it a storage space versus office space.
Correct. One of the other things that we had talked about, because of the size of those rooms, it's possible that some of the entities that might be needing some storage space might only need half of that room. You wouldn't have to spend very much money to build a stub wall between two halves and a little entryway so they can go one way or the other. That way you'd really increase your options. A lot of places might be looking to get a storage space at $8 or $9 a square foot. That's not too many square feet for them. On the other hand, there may be some that need the whole thing, so.
I think it cost us just shy of $2,000 to put your wall in your office when
Alright.
Amanda was in there, and that was adding some electricity in the wall too. We would
Yeah.
not have to put plugins in the wall, so.
Correct.
It wouldn't be super expensive to
Nope.
split that one big room in half, because there would be two separate doors already in there.
Yep.
But what are your thoughts on the $9?
I mean, when you say climate control, it's just above freezing, ain't it?
Yeah,
I mean, that's about all we commit to it, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, the fact that they're inside in a facility that has heating and to some extent cooling, that's what you call climate controlled. Certainly not a guarantee. Every contract recognizes that you may have situations where the laws of nature say you're gonna be out of power for a half a day or whatever, but that's still climate controlled.
I mean, I'm fine with renting it out. I don't want to do a bunch of work to it.
right. It would be my preference to rent it as is, not
Right.
throw a wall in there, but if someone comes and says, I don't need the full space.
Okay.
Okay. Deputy Finance Officer, we are doing interviews this week, and that will be announced later this week, who Deputy Finance Officer will be, if a decision is made. Winter Advocate, you have a letter in front of you that is stating that they will not be the biggest one is the last paragraph. We will no longer be running any legals on ordinances or resolutions until they are passed by the governing body. If an ordinance or resolution is passed on a Monday night meeting, the legal will have to run the next Wednesday. That is what they are telling us. Now, because that is the issue, we do have the ability, it's my understanding, to look to see if there is a secondary source out there for us to put our publications in. Because they are not giving us the ability to get it out to the public as fast as possible.
Right.
When this happened the last time for us, what did they table? Brad, because he had one sentence. Oh, the fuel bids, that resolution for
Right,
fuels.
correct.
I sent her a message first thing the next morning. I said, hey, this got tabled. You can publish it still, just put that it was tabled at the bottom. We'll pay for the extra verbiage saying it was tabled. And so previous to that, it had been probably a year since we had an issue with it, but that's where she's standing with it, so. I will be looking to see what else we can utilize to get our ordinances and resolutions out there in a timely manner. Until then, we will continue to use the Winter Advocate.
Well, and there's still time, it's just a week later than normal.
It is, yep.
The main thing that it does is it delays the effective period for any, whether it's ordinances or
Or resolution.
resolutions where sometimes time
Time is of the essence
is
sometimes
of
with our
the essence,
ordinances,
yeah.
yeah.
And we delay everything effectiveness for another week.
So a petition, like, if something is referred, a petition cannot be taken out until it's publicized, number one, and then they have 20 days from that publication.
Right.
If there is an ordinance out there that we need to get on the books, or a resolution, a
Sometimes,
job
yeah.
description, whatever, to get out there so that we can get somebody hired,
Yep,
it's not in effect until 20 days after publication, and this adds
correct.
another week and a half technically before publication.
Correct.
The Friday at 5, that's not a problem. My issue was sometimes minutes didn't get to them until Monday, but
Yeah.
I'll make sure the minutes are there on Friday.
You'll never hit that 5 o'clock deadline, right? Oh, yeah, you would.
I could technically get it to them sooner, I just maybe procrastinate. Records retention, this is a normal every year. This is what we will be destroying. Once council approves us to destroy it, we have started getting everything separated out. Most of it is 2019 that we will be getting rid of. There is one that, utility receipts we only have to keep for, 3 years instead of 4. I need to correct that. But anyways, I will get that corrected on the list. But these are all according to
Yep.
disconnect, reconnect, that's the one, sorry. So,
Oh,
do you
yeah.
approve to send that to full council? Encumbering process, so I know it's been brought up at least one, maybe 2 committee meetings. Encumbering process, until we have all of our revenues receipted, and now we're pretty well, we've got one more personal services to go through. Until then, we cannot verify that anything can be encumbered. So you have to verify that the revenues exceeded the expenses, and that they can afford to encumber it over into the next year. So the first resolution would be January 2nd, and that would be all of the things that we are encumbering as of January 2nd. So far, the only thing that I know for sure that they've talked about is moving over 10,000 from, I believe, cemetery for roads. So we just have to verify the general fund made enough revenues to support that. Their expenses overall are under, and so it should be okay. And then, I don't know, I think jail talked about potentially encumbering some
Yeah,
things
the
too.
cemetery is the only one that I read.
Yeah, so just wanted to it's not quite as simple as, hey, we didn't spend that line, we want to encumber it into next year's budget. We have to look at, this is when the revenues and expenses talk to each other.
Yes.
So we have to look at all the different levels before we can officially encumber anything, so. And then finally, deposit process. So we brought this to committee, I think 2 or 3 years ago. We found that people with multiple accounts, previous administration was only collecting deposits on one account per person. Our ordinance clearly defines every active account must have a deposit on it. At that time, we asked, do you want us to send a letter to everyone that says they owe us deposits? Or do you want us to collect them as they trigger a change? At that time, we were told, and Mr. Jensen said that was okay too, rather than we're not grandfathering them in, we're just saying, okay, you've triggered a change, now we have to collect the deposit on your account.
Right.
So we do that now. There are a lot of landlords that were very, very upset with us at first because as their tenant would move out, they would have to put it into their name, they would have to have that deposit on there. When it comes to deposit money, it is 100% the customer's money. That's why it's separated out on your financial statement of what we have in deposits. That is not money that the city of Winter can spend. It is their money to show ownership and authorization on the utility account. When they close out that account out of their name, so say it is a landlord, they sell it to somebody else, then they will get that deposit back. So as changes come through our office, whether it's an address change, a name change, anything, that does trigger Brandy to then request, hey, there is no deposit on this account, we have to get a deposit on the account. So I know last time I wasn't here and you guys were talking about the payment process. Assume that you all got that email as to what our payment process is and how that works now. And then this is just another process that we have implemented through the utility billing and making sure that it's getting same across the board for everyone, so. Look at that, 10 items in 25 minutes.
Good job.
You've had more coffee than me this morning.
True story.
Questions, Council?
Not yet. In conclusion,